I'll call to order the board agenda for June 11th, board meeting 2024. And now we'll have the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will be adjourning to executive session for ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real estate property transactions. ORS 192.6602F to consider records exempt from law by public inspection. And ORS 192.6602H to consult with legal counsel regarding legal rights and duties of the body with regard to current litigation or likely to be filed. And as a reminder, for media and executive sessions, representatives of the new media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. We will hold our executive session in the superintendent's office for the duration. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we return to open session. Media can be excluded for the following reasons: when the board is in labor negotiations and bargaining, for expelling the student's confidential record, or discuss litigation in the subdistrict or community college. That's listed on the back of the agenda at the bottom. So right now we will dismiss for executive session. Okay, we will call the Newburgh Dundee School Board meeting back to order after executive session. And the first thing is to review the agenda additions and deletions, and I have two additions. One is to add under approval items, to appoint an interim superintendent for the Newburgh School District. And the second one is to adopt a resolution for all financial matters so we can make payments as needed. And so those are the two items that will be added to the agenda.
So you want to add that under action items? You had said approval items.
Under action items, yes,
Okay,
please.
Thank you.
And we have two deletions because of the length of our meeting tonight. The principals at Newburgh High School and Chehalem Valley Middle School will not be presenting tonight. And we send our regrets, and we appreciate all that they've done to prepare. And the other thing is that the Japanese delegates to report about their exchange trip from Chehalem Valley Middle School will also wait till later to report. And I know that they had a good trip and we look forward to a report, but tonight doesn't seem to be the opportune time. So are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes from anybody else? BK, we can talk about that, but we are going to postpone that, but I'll announce the postponement and why. Okay. Any other additions or corrections? Okay, if not, we will go ahead and go to our consent agenda. And the first thing is it has new hires and resignations. This is posted on the school district webpage. And it has the board minutes from the May 14th, May 20th, May 30th, and June 3rd. And our secretary Tabitha sent out revised for June 30th that you got today. And so those are in there. And I think that Mr. Lindenberger is going to say something about the consent agenda on new hires.
So under the new hires, as many members of the community and the board is aware, we've been discussing financial constraints. And yet here you see within the consent agenda item, we have 4 individuals that we're looking to hire. The reason behind that primarily is a contractual agreement that we have with the licensed association. We have an MOU where it says that if we hire an agency employee, in other words, we're subcontracting out hard to fill positions, we can do that. But when we have opportunity to bring them in and make them employees of the district, then we're doing that. And so what you'll see here is a speech pathologist. The second individual listed is going to be working with special needs students, and a counseling position and a school psychologist. So this also ties into the federal programs and requirements and mandates, primarily with 504 and IEPs. So didn't want any confusion on that and thought I should give you a little bit greater explanation as to why we're making this recommendation.
Are there any further questions about the consent or comments about the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move that the Newburgh Dundee Public School Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I would like to note, thank you especially to the OSEA for giving a donation of $400 to create a library at the LRC. And we always appreciate community donations. Public forum. Individuals are invited during this portion to present items of condemnations or concerns. Personnel matters may not be discussed in public at a school board meeting. Members of the public who have personal concerns or commendations shall share them directly with the board leadership, with the district leadership. And public comments on the back of our agenda it's printed. We have 30 minutes allotted for public comments with 3-minute limit per person. Public comments will be processed in the order received. And please state your name, your city of residence for all comments. And comments, if someone mailed something, if we have time, we will read them after other ones in person have priority. And please remember that our comments are not to be about specific individuals. Thank you. So the one in person that we have is Lisa Joyce, please.
Hi, my name is Lisa Joyce.
Can you get your mic up so that it'll go out?
There
Thank
we
you.
go. My name is Lisa Joyce. I live in Hillsborough, Oregon, but Yamhill County, and I live within the Newburgh-Dundee School District. I have 3 Newburgh alumni children who went to school here under the guidance of Dr. Paula Radich, where she treated all of us with great respect as humans, not according to our color, our culture, or our gender. She treated us that we had something to contribute, not only to our schools, to our community, but also to life. And we have failed in having that guidance tremendously in the last while. I also have my oldest who would like to move to Newburgh. Due to the past board that we had, their family's chosen not to. We just had a recent conversation in April with the hopes of coming back to where they would be moving to Newburgh with my grandchildren. And due to the situation that is transpired and the lack of transparency, the lack of honesty, and the lack of direction of where our district is going to be due to the financial deficit, they've chosen not to come. And so there's 2 students now that Newburgh School District will not have. I also want to talk a little bit about the budget. I took some time to learn, to listen, and to try to process. The one thing that has made me angry and hurt and sad is the line item for lawsuits, past, present, and future. That line item has gone up. You look at the budget on the FTEs, and they're saying that 60 fluid, meaning it can go up or down, will be lost due to financial restraints. But yet we're putting more money into lawsuits line item than we are into our education. And to me, that's devastating. The other thing I would like to say is we know a lot about rumors. They're all over the place, social media, in the buildings, downtown, at the grocery store. But rumors can't be stopped unless there's full transparency, unless there's honesty, unless there's communication. They're asking the questions of, are there legal investigations happening? Where did the money go? Why are we in this?
That's time.
We have no confidence in the top 3, and we hope to see them leave.
Thank you. I don't think there are any other comments who signed up in person. Is that right? Or is there other? Okay. Yes, you do. Please. Yes. While he's filling that out, I will read the public comments that we got. One public comment that we got by email is from a woman named Julie Jorgensen, whose address is in Newburgh. I'm writing to express my concerns regarding the discrepancy between the 5th grade outdoor field trip at Edwards and overnight outdoor school program offered at our other Newburgh school districts, new district schools. As newcomers to the area, my primary goal is to seek clarification and gather more information to better understand the situation. Last year, when inquiring about outdoor school for my 6th grader, I was informed that such programs took place in 5th grade in the Newburgh School District. However, under further investigation, I discovered that Edwards, where my children attend, no longer offers an outdoor school experience. The reasons behind this decision remain unclear, with discussions ranging from concerns about a 5th grade class ruining the experience years ago to it being left to individual teachers to decide whether their students participate. I kindly request more details about the decision-making process and the rationale behind the discontinuation of outdoor school programs at Edwards. Additionally, I believe it would be beneficial to share this information with fifth grade parents as there is growing concern among them regarding their children not receiving the same educational opportunities as students in neighboring schools within the same district who continue to offer this program. Outdoor school plays a crucial role in providing students with hands-on learning experience in nature, fostering a deeper connection to the environment, promoting physical activity, and enhancing social skills through teamwork and outdoor challenges. Moreover, research has shown that outdoor school can improve academic performance, boost confidence, and instill a sense of environmental stewardship. It is understandable that many parents may perceive the lack of access to outdoor school as inequitable, especially when considering the benefits it offers to students' overall development. It seems that the decision to offer outdoor school should be approached as an all or nothing endeavor to ensure fairness and consistency across the district. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I look forward to hearing from you and gaining further insights into this issue. Sincerely, Julie Jorgensen, Newburgh. Is the gentleman ready? Well, if you bring me that, I can announce. Thank you. Don't trip. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Duck, thank you. Derek Duck.
A minute. All right, I just wanted to come here to, number one, thank the school board, the budget committee, everyone who's put in tireless hours over the last several months, especially when this situation came to light. So first of all, thank you. I know that, we have several hours in here and several hours of video that we can watch on various forums. But first, I just wanted to start with that. Number two, I just wanted to talk about transparency of communication. There's a number of people who haven't been in attendance at meetings who, for all I know, I don't know that they necessarily even work in the school district. If we can have communication around those people, especially if they are key individuals as part of that, please make the general public aware of that. And then number three, something that I did upon Dr. Phillips's start here, and then also in conjunction with that is I had a meeting with our director of finance at the time, and I offered up some time of volunteer to help with items of data and transparency and being willing to give free hours for that. None of that actually ever came to fruition during that period. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it in public comment that if the school board would like an individual to work on behalf of the community or on behalf of the school to work through data, transparency, reporting, analysis, I'm happy to do that. And so one of the takeaways after one of the budget meetings, I did send you a fair amount of data regarding enrollments and things of that nature. And I would be happy to do that on behalf of not only the school district, but our children. I have two currently in the district, one who is 3 who will be joining here in 2 years at Crater Elementary. So with that being said, I just want to put the invitation out there. You have my email. I've communicated with you through public communication. So please, by all means, reach out to me. And I'm not talking about, I'll give you like 2 hours here. I'll give you a substantial amount of time. This is my children's education. And other than James and Saul, who both have young children who will be attending the district, I am very interested, invested in this district, as is my wife, who spends a lot of time volunteering. So please reach out to me. Please, if there's anything that I can do in terms of providing some transparency into matters similar to kind of what popped up over the last few months, or if there's questions that you have, please reach out. I'm happy to help in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, we read the emails that come in order that they are received. The next one is from Lauren P. from Newburgh. I live in Newburgh. I would like to shout out to the COA staff who were quick to respond to our family in May to support our child in math while I was battling a moderate sickness. Thank you for being you. This one is from Matthew Stidman, and He says a forensic audit needs to be done to see exactly where the money came from and went to. The district administration has said opposite statements regarding the budget as a whole, more specifically about things such as the contractors costing more than employees, followed by the very next days, and is basically the same cost to have either. They shouldn't be allowed to touch the district funds until it's completed. This one is from Patrick Verdon. Why are we continuing to take financial advice and estimates from the same two district office leaders who are still in the position? A third party needs to be analyzing all these numbers and data. We still have not broken down how financials were not transparent and the board and community have been misled all year. I asked another district superintendent who said that they have to present their books to the board every month, so situations like this don't happen. This is from Jessica Knight. And her topic says reading specialist, and she is a kindergarten teacher at Crater Elementary School. Dear community board members, as you begin to consider cuts and or rifts, I would like to implore that you not cut elementary reading specialists. While teachers are capable of providing small group instruction and implement interventions, it is not reasonable replacement for reading intervention, a reasonable replacement. The students from my class that were in reading interventions were students who needed a small group in a quiet setting with fewer students in the room and less distractions. These students made exponential growth in both their reading skills and confidence as students. At a time when we were going to have larger class sizes, it is imperative that the student support resources are not also cut. Title schools get reading specialists. However, this is a support all schools need, as students struggling to learn to read are not isolated to Title I schools. John Hattie, who in studying the effect of different learning influences on learning outcomes, found that interventions for students with learning needs had an effect size of 0.77. This is not one of those cuts that has little student impact. I would argue the impact is enormous. If the reading specialists are cut, every student will be impacted. Mostly those most vulnerable in need of reading intervention, but also those students who receive reading support from the classroom teacher during reading intervention. Not only do reading specialists support students, but they also support the classroom teachers when interpreting data so that students know how to help, teachers know how to help students, and teachers feel confident in teaching students how to read. Hattie found that the teacher self-efficacy had an effect size of 1.57, which again plays a huge role in student learning outcomes. Reading specialists are not only important to keep students, but also for teachers to help ensure that student learning outcomes remain high in elementary schools. Reading is a civil right. Dr. Liz Brooks, the Chief Learning Officer at Lexia, states, the benefits of knowing how to read go far beyond academic achievement. Literacy leads to personal empowerment, academic success, informed decision-making, active civic participation, improved self-esteem, and increased economic opportunities. Every student deserves to have the opportunity to learn to read. It is not provided at all it is not provided at the elementary. If it is not provided at the elementary level, research says it will negatively impact their future. Please consider this as you make decisions about the budget. Sincerely, Jessica Knight, kindergarten teacher at Crater. And the last one I have is also from a reading specialist, Becky Gilmore. Dear School Board, I am writing to express my deep concern regarding the potential closure of Joanne Austin Elementary, as mentioned by Superintendent Phillips in the recent school board meeting. As a dedicated educator wrapping up my 30th year in public education, 26 years in Newburgh, and the last 19 spent at Joanne Austin Elementary, I firmly believe that the proposed closure would have detrimental effects on our students and their families. The vibrant community at Joanne Austin Elementary has been an integral part of the Newburgh School District, providing not only education, but essential support for our students and families. The proposed closure would disrupt valuable relationships, cause necessary trauma for our students, and place undue stress on families. If families are displaced and further away from their newly assigned school, it becomes more challenging to get their child to school, attend school functions, and volunteer. This is a disrespectful consequence for our Joanne Austin Elementary families and students. Furthermore, the decision to dissolve one of the district's Title I schools, which has been instrumental in providing additional services and federal funding, is unwise and short-sighted. These federal funds through Title I support staffing and programs which do not come out of the general budget. The district's budget dilemma should not become the burden of Joanne Austin students and families. I urge you to consider this proposal and reconsider this proposal and explore alternative solutions that prioritize the well-being of our students and preserve the vital role of neighborhood schools in our community. Sincerely, Becky Gilmore, reading specialist. I think that is all of the, these are all of the ones that I have received tonight. And so we will move on to reports and discussions. And we had asked the students to get here at 6:30, and so it's not 6:30 yet. So if it's possible, we would like to change. I assume that everybody who has here to interview for Zone 3 open board position is here. And if you are, if you could come up here and we could interview you at this time, and then we'll do the students, if that would be acceptable. We'll put your names up here. Pardon?
Yeah, all three of you. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't say, did I say zone? Oh, Zone 5. Yes, I knew it, Zone 5. Yeah, just,
Yes.
he's gonna put your names down. Just sit down and we'll,
So fun.
yes, this is for Zone 5, empty board's position from Renee Powell's resignation, and it's for the Edwards School District. No, 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 I meant to say there, we knew we had 3 applicants. I didn't mean to say Zone 3, sorry. We all received your applications. Every board member has what you submitted to the board. And so I would like to just go ahead and maybe one at a time, you could state your name and why you're interested, and we'll just go in order the way you're seating, starting with Aubrey. And also, just for your information, tonight we'll do interviews, and then the plan, and the board can have discussion before this, is that we board members will individually rank their choices like 1, 2, 3, and golf score wins. So whoever, and we will send those to Secretary, our Tabitha, and she will compile them. And we would like to get this done within a week, so the board members would need to submit to Tabitha, and then I will contact each one of you. So do anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, maybe different boards do it differently, but when I actually applied for this position back when I lost against Becky, it was a discussion that was happening right after the fact, and there was an immediate placement of the person at that moment. And so I'm not sure why we need to do this in, I guess, secrecy or privacy of rating. I think we should have an open discussion as soon as it's over and make a nomination.
Well, I wasn't secret. Obviously, afterwards, we would have to appoint in open session. I mean, the appointment has to be an open session.
Well, yeah, the appointment, but still, part of it, I think, is the beneficial part of it is you get different people's perspectives and having an open dialogue. If we do it outside and we're just putting numbers on there, we don't always understand everybody's perspective and hearing the answers and trying to understand how they may be more beneficial than another person, unless we actually have an open dialogue. And so again, it could be a difference from many years ago, which I think was 6+ years ago, whatever, to now. Back then it was, you had the interviews, we had open discussion. I knew before I left the building that I was not picked as the nominee. And so I would like to maybe explore that a little bit more at the moment, have other people's opinions on that. So
Other board members?
The policies, policy BBE, and it ends with any interviews for declared vacancies shall be held in open session. This is what you're doing. The next part is kind of vague. It just says the vacancy shall be filled by a majority vote of the board. End of policy. And then it does say though that once appointed, they're sworn and seated immediately.
For what it's worth, that just would mean that the idea of the lowest score wouldn't be necessarily the correct way to go, since it would be a majority decision rather than, you know.
Okay, I'm open to, if you want to have a discussion and decide tonight, that's fine with me. Any consensus?
I'd like to stick with the original process and have them sworn in July.
I'm open to either one. I think Director Allen has a point though that it's a majority vote. So, but it doesn't say how that vote is. So I don't have a either way if we do it tonight or next month. But just want to make sure. I think vote might be better than ranking. I don't know.
Well, whether there's a ranking or not, there's a discussion before the vote. I mean, the idea is that I would not be contacting people unless we have a vote. It's an open session, and that's board policy.
But you just mentioned that you'd buy golf score, you would contact the person that has the best score. And then they're the ones that assumingly would be walking in that day expecting to be nominated. But then if we have an open discussion and that changes, then where is this person 2 or 3? If person 2 or 3 wins or is nominated, wins the nomination.
I see the error of my ways.
Maybe instead of, maybe as a compromise, we could interview tonight, think on it, and then at the next board meeting, do an open vote. Any further discussion after we've had some time to think on it. And then at that point, that could be another one so that it's still done next month. We've had some time to think about it, but without any kind of secrecy.
I say we don't, I don't mind if we delay a little bit, but we have 2 more board meetings before the normal board meeting. And I say we need to get them on board ASAP to help provide a voice and get this as a fair board as possible, having all zones represented.
On that note, then I would advocate to delay, not choose tonight, so that Director DeHart could also have a say in the matter. Due to the fact that he's not here, you could watch the meeting and.
Okay, so let's have interviews tonight, and we have a board meeting on the 18th. We will have a discussion and vote on the 18th. Does that sound okay?
Okay with that.
Works for me.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. We had to do board business.
Now you can see what you're getting into.
That's okay.
I will also say to make sure that we turn on the mics so that everyone can hear at home.
So the board was sent a list of possible questions, and they do not have to be asked in any order. But first, Aubrey, if you would, well, why don't we just give each person an opportunity to introduce themselves and why you're one apply for this position, and we'll take 1, 2, 3, and then we'll ask random questions.
Okay. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Aubrey Nichols, and I am a resident of Zone 5. I am a parent of 2 children who attend Edwards Elementary in the dual language program. I am an active community member in Newburgh, and I have been since I moved here in 2010. I've served in various positions, but serving on the school board would be a huge honor for me. It would be a way to serve my community in the area that I am professionally trained. I am an educator. I have been a teacher for 15 years. The last 2 years, I took some time to commit myself to the city of Newburgh and work more in the downtown core of Newburgh. But this coming year, I'll be back in education as an administrator at a school outside of Newburgh. I believe that I have the skills that could assist this board. I think that I have a unique perspective as a current educator, and I love our town. I love Newburgh. I have intentionally raised my children here, and I am committed to doing whatever it takes to help make this place the place where my kids want to live.
Thank you. Guadalupe?
Thank you, Nancy and board. Can you, I will speak forever, so please repeat the question and just concisely tell me what I need to answer at this point.
Well, we wanted you to introduce yourself and your experience. I mean, not just on paper, like what we
Mhm.
got, your application, and why you are interested in serving in Zone 5.
Thank you. Guadalupe Martinez Zapata. I live down the street here in Newburgh in Zone 5, and my son attended Edwards Elementary. He has since graduated and is a post-grad student at this point. I've lived in Newburgh for 25 years and have made the decision or the choice to stay in Newburgh after having selected to move here. Because the size of the community, because the neighbors, because of the teachers, the educators that I met along the way. And so all in all, I believe in the place where I live. I grew up in a family that was had firm advocacy in civic engagement and involvement. My parents both became citizens of the United States after living here for decades and decades because they wanted to participate in the process of civism. And so that is who I am as well. So that's my the reason that I've applied for this position is because I believe that I am part of what the community becomes. And so that's a due diligence that I think is important to bring to the table. I've been an educator for 25 plus years. I teach in higher education and am a non-licensed counselor at a community college and teach as an adjunct at a variety of different colleges in the region. So I have a great investment in public education. Public education is what I believe we should all be invested in as citizens of our community. What else can I tell you about myself? I think that's where I'll stop because like I said, I can talk all night.
Thank you. And Lucas Morgan, thanks.
Thank you very much. I thought I was getting a little bit of a privilege by getting to go last because I would get to hear what you guys said initially. And now I realize that y'all are very impressive and I feel very intimidated by the both of you. So I forgo that privilege there. My name is Lucas Morgan. I'm actually a new resident to Newburgh. My sister is an educator here at UN Young. And when I've loved Newburgh for a long time. They've lived here for a few years. They lived with me prior to living here. And I showed up and I moved here and realized that Newburgh was as wonderful as it is. And then I learned about a lot of the things that were going on within the school district. And I was taken aback and like slightly heartbroken by everything. Not that I don't obviously just got here, so I'm not attributing blame to anybody in particular, but I was just like, oh my goodness, like that is a tragedy to me. You know what I mean? That such a wonderful little community is going through so much from their education system. I think there's probably a huge number of factors that lead to something like this. But I felt driven to be involved. So I was listening, I was talking to my sister about it, and I was listening to your school board meetings on the Zoom meetings. Also, I don't know if we ever show how many people are in the room over here. Does the Zoom ever demonstrate? I thought it was just this room for the last several weeks. There are so many people over here. In case anybody was listening on Zoom, you should feel very happy about your community. There's so many people here to like support this entire motion. I was like, where is everybody? Why does nobody care? They're all right here. So that's very good. But the reason I think I care about this is a couple of things. So, I mean, I'm not an educator by profession. I work for a consulting agency of this particular kind called a PEO. And part of what I help people do is analyze their people spend. And so what I look at is data a lot of the times to understand like exactly what goes into why because people spend across the board. You guys are seeing this obviously right now with 80% of your spend being on your teachers and your salary and your expenditure. This is true of the private sector as well. People are your most expensive cost, right? And that is a multifaceted thing. I think right now, a lot of what I've heard, which I think is relatively interesting, obviously there's some specificity on transportation costs and FTEs and things like that, but there's an intricate nature to any particular employee that is existing in a space, right? Like how that is apprised is difficult, as I'm sure all of you are aware. So anyway, when I learned about the problems you guys were having, I realized one that I think, even though at first I was initially like, there's no way I should ever do anything like this. I'm not in education. We have people like Guadalupe. We have people like Aubrey. I do this in part for a living. And the other thing that I do is I work with business leaders. I work with people who run businesses to help understand how they are using their money, what it's going to, how to analyze that, how to understand it. So in a weird sort of niche sort of way, I think in this particular set of circumstances, I had a different sort of qualification, even though I'm slightly more removed from the education system. But also beyond that, I was in the Peace Corps, and what I did was work with school districts in Neba, Guatemala. And actually the job there was to allocate funds to increase the nutritional value of the food the children were receiving. But one thing that I learned there was coordination amongst many different areas. Obviously, I would just be in Zone 5, but would be coordinating with the rest of you all who pertain to the rest of the district. It's exactly what I did. And I'm guessing it'd probably be slightly easier to get you all in a room than it was to get people in a room in Guatemala, but we got there. And I think that was the biggest thing I did. A thing that I think I hear there and here alike is that transparency seems to be a big issue. Even some of the meetings, I was a little bit shocked. Sol, you asked fantastic questions, I think, during most of the meetings, but I think what was throwing me back more than anything was that you were asking those questions then. I was like, why do you not already know this stuff? You know what I mean? Like, not that's your fault. I don't understand why that is. But I was like, how did you not have the opportunity to ask that 3 days ago? You know what I mean? Before we were actually in the meeting there. So I think I already see some things I would like to do. And then I think more than anything, I went to a school like Edwards for part of my life. I didn't grow up with any money. And I think a part of my heart feels forever indebted to things like Edwards, to school districts like this where the kids don't have as much. I live right down the street. I walk my dogs over here. If you guys ever see the person with the 3 poodles, that's me. So anyway, long ranty way of saying me and Guadalupe I think have this in common. We can talk forever. But those are all the reasons that I'm here and excited, and even to be considered to have gotten this far is a privilege and an honor. So thank you all very, very much.
I want to thank each of you for your opening statements, and it's really an honor to have 3 very qualified candidates that are interested in the school district. That's very good. And so now we have a list of potential questions, and if people want to ask them, go ahead and you can direct them at each person, and they can take turns asking, or maybe individual questions for individual applicants.
I'll start. I'm gonna go off script one. Lucas, you mentioned you're a newer resident, and I see here you were zone resident since 2024. How long have you lived in Newburgh?
5 months. Just got here. Yeah. Well, late January. So yeah, about 5 months, almost there.
Great. And then also just, I know you were talking about ways to be involved if for some reason you're not chosen. And the same for Mr. Duff. There's some, I was going to talk about at the end, but also one of the recommendations from the budget committee was for us to establish a finance committee to do better safeguards moving forward. So if you're not chosen for this, I would encourage you to apply for that, because those are the kind of thing, and same with Mr. Duff, because those are the kind of experiences we're going to be looking for on that.
Yeah, and I would be happy to do anything of the sort. Like, I mean, really, this was the opportunity I found to participate in this and to participate in a community that has made a very large impact on me very, very quickly. So wherever I can do the most good, you know, if that's with Aubrey Guadalupe doing this and me doing something else somewhere, that's totally good. So.
I think I have a question for each of you, and this is, a question. Many of us were elected just a year ago. Actually, everybody sitting at this table was. And so, what I would ask, since there's an election next May, and Zone 5 will be one of the zones that will be up for election. If you are appointed, do you think you would like to run for the position for the school board next year when there, would be an election, could be other competition? And so do you think that would be of interest to you? I know from my own experience, the learning curve's steep. And so sometimes, having that year in before election might be helpful. So I'll just go down the.
Thank you. I would absolutely anticipate a steep learning curve. But one of the things that I know about students and children is that continuity is valuable. And I think that the same goes for a community. So I would absolutely intend to run again.
I cannot predict what I will be doing in about a year. I'm close to retirement and I am not fairly certain if running a campaign and all of that will be something that I'm going to be poised to do in a year. So I'll leave the question there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have no intention of going anywhere at this point. Like I said, this community had a pretty big impact on me pretty quickly. So I've done a lot of stuff already, I think, in my life. So I'm pretty happy to sit, to settle, and to invest in something that I would like to invest in. So if there was an opportunity next year, regardless of what happens today, tomorrow, before the 18th, I would be interested.
Thank you.
Thank you for, again, applying and getting to this point. Everybody, I think you actually covered half our questions at least just by your introductions. So I don't know. The one does stick out in my mind though, in one of our questions. The school board meets second Tuesday evening once a month, plus any other designated dates. Lately, it's been pretty much, we're hitting 1-2 meetings a week. And this will be a question for all three of you to answer, but I know just by hearing your profiles and what you do in your normal day, I think this could be a very valid question. It seems like you all are in need elsewhere, and I want to make sure you are able to commit time to this if there needs to, like what we're having now, where we're meeting once or twice a week. So Lucas, we'll start with you this time and go backwards.
Thank you for finally starting with me. They give too good of answers, and I was like, no, please don't. Yeah, I would be the time commitment essentially is something I generally anticipated being larger than even just a meeting every two. When I read that, I don't know if anybody, I volunteered in a lot of different organizations. It's always more, right? And then being a person who's new here, I would anticipate even more commitment from myself and, than someone maybe like Guadalupe who's been here for 25 years, because I would have to get to know people a bit better. I would like to speak to my community. I would need to talk to Edwards. I would want to talk to the teachers. Like, I just got here. I don't know them, and like, so how can I represent them if I'm not speaking to them, if I'm not holding forums? I'm not exactly sure what the formal ways of going about these mechanisms are, but these are things that I would consider to be necessary if I were to be positioned anyway. So a meeting, 2 meetings a week right now, 3 meetings is really no big deal. I would anticipate even more beyond that.
I have been doing the job that I'm doing for just about 25 years. So that part of my life, I feel fairly confident I can do almost in my sleep. And in fact, that is why I've been quite a bit more involved in the last decade or so in community service. I have, for the last 5.5 years, almost 6 years, served on the State Board of Education. It is not the same thing as a local board, but the amount of time that kind of position requires is significant. I'm accustomed to that. I can coordinate that. And in fact, one of the strengths that I believe I would bring to the board is my sense of not just duty, but organization. So I think that is something that I anticipate, especially having been painfully aware of the condition that the district is in, that any of us need to be very committed to the service on the board. So I am prepared to do that. I've served on numerous committees and boards during the last 10 years, and so I'm fairly comfortable with the level of work that it requires to do community service, volunteer service to the community. So I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily going wild looking forward to it, but I think I can anticipate that that's coming and here. because I feel like confident that I can serve that. Now, I also want to say that because I'm not sure how many more questions are coming. I also want to say that one of the things that I wanted to accomplish through this interview is see who was going to be sitting at the table up here with me. I feel most confident that any one of the individuals that is sitting up here is going to be able to do this work collaboratively. I think that's the duty that we have. This is why it's a board. It's not an individual that is carrying out decisions for the district on top of another individual that is carrying out decisions for the district. So I think any one of us will be able to do that quite well in the interest of our zone. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I echo that. I feel the same. I feel almost a little sense of relief right now and very proud of our zone because we know the situation that the district is in, and to see us, you know, the three of us able and ready actually feels good, which is a nice thing to feel right now. I too am very used to balancing a lot of different responsibilities. I currently am the president of the Edwards Volunteer Organization, which is our school PTO, which is why I'm wearing an apron tonight. We were slinging hot dogs over at the playground right before this. We had a summer kickoff event. I'm grateful that I have a village of people who support me and who support me in this endeavor. I think that most everybody that I work with here in town knows how important this role is and knows the work that is set ahead of us. I would be honored to be a part of that. I too am quite organized. I think that we all have to be in this day and age to manage all of our different jobs and meetings and all those things. I would enthusiastically approach the opportunity to balance another thing on my plate.
Thank you. Any other further questions?
I have one more. I think that there are times when there's an idea that we as a board maybe have the authority to do a lot of different things that we realistically don't. So I'm interested in how you view the role of the school board as well as what I guess you would hope to bring to the board and what impact you believe you could make in that role.
We'll go in the middle first.
Good. Thank you. Happy to do that. Thank you, Chair Woodward. What I see the role of the board doing, you're absolutely right. I think there's often a misconception that the board just rules and governs and does all of the things, and that is certainly not the case. Although the board has a lot of power indirectly, not always explicitly, but certainly the fact that you are able to hire and manage the team of individuals, or the one individual that then subsequently manages another team that does the work for the school district, is a huge responsibility. You need to have trust in that individual. And so the responsibility of the board is to ensure that you have a person in that position that is a trusted individual to the board. That is a lot of work to be able to accomplish. And that relational trust that you have with that individual and their employees is how you manage the work that the community wants, is by being able to have a collaborative relationship with your superintendent. So it's not a silent board. It's not an indirect board. You are directly engaged with the service of the school district in a responsible fashion, because that trust is a mutuality. It cannot exist in one direction. The superintendent also needs to rely on their board to help them make decisions that are difficult decisions sometimes. So I think, Director Allen, there is a lot of opportunity that the board has that is not about making day-to-day decisions, but that happens with the collaboration of the person that you're responsible for. You represent the community, and that's the voice that you have with the district.
Thank you. Lucas, do you want to say something, please?
I was hoping you'd go with Aubrey next, but it's fine. But I think of it as sort of a triple part piece. So to your point, Sol, I didn't actually anticipate having too much power. When I was in the Peace Corps, I was just a guy wandering around hoping people would listen to me for a long enough period of time in order to actually be able to do anything at all. And if I was persuasive enough after a period of time, then we could do things. And I managed to get that done. So not having a ton of physical control, like inherently, doesn't necessarily bother me. It's primarily what I'm used to. Even in my role now is like the consulting capacity, I can tell you all kinds of stuff. What you do thereafter is entirely outside of me. But I think of it, I think of it as an advocacy portion. So I would owe it to the zone to advocate for what they need, right? In whatever capacity, while taking that in the fuller scope of what is going on with the district at large. I think the second part is transparency. Like I would owe a piece to the people that I am representing to have them. Like you were saying early, Jeremy, like you want everybody to be able to have a voice in the decision for whoever takes over Zone 5. Like I think that's tremendous. So I think that's the second part. And then obviously, to your part, Guadalupe, like appointing the superintendent is a big deal. So that and working with that collaboratively, again, it's another piece where I thought my lack of education experience would be sort of an inhibitor, but it's what I do a lot of the time as I work with CEOs. Those are my clients. They own businesses, tech businesses and venture capital firms primarily. And they do not like to be told no. And my job is a lot of time tell them no. Or that's a really bad idea. You know what I mean? And we have to have conversations with this capacity all the time. So I guess I think those three things principally, to mediate that relationship, to provide transparency to the zone that I represent, and then to advocate for their needs would be how I would categorize what it could do and what I'd be planning on doing.
Thank you.
I echo a lot of those sentiments in what the board is responsible for. I think that this is obviously a huge time of transition, and there is a lot of work ahead of this board in the coming weeks, but then a lot of work throughout the next year. We know that the decisions made about this budget cut need to be made in the next couple of weeks. You have a firm timeline that you need to stick with. But the follow-up and the communication throughout the next year, I think, is going to be critical. The Finance Committee, I think, is a great move. And I'm really looking forward to seeing which community members and which district members are a part of that, and how that communication can really bolster the relationship between the school board and the district and the community. Because I think there is still a lot of ground to be made in that way. There's a lot of trust to be gained. And that goes along with communication and transparency. And I think that for me personally, from my perspective, one of the things that I think I could offer to this board is that viewpoint of a current educator and what these decisions related to the budget are going to mean to the teachers, to the students. I know intimately what it feels like to think that you're going to have a class of 22 and surprise you have a class of 29, and the difference that that can make in your day-to-day, and also the difference that that makes for the learning environment for the students. Not only just as a parent, knowing what my children go through at Edwards, but then being in a variety of different educational systems throughout my career. I think that it is sometimes making the decisions, there can be a disconnect between the decisions made and then what it actually looks like for the boots on the ground. And I hope to be able to bridge that gap. I hope to be able to communicate effectively with the educators that are employed and that do the incredible work day to day in our district, and really represent them well as a voice on this board.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? If not, we have students to interview.
If you have a question, I have a comment at the end, but I'll wait. I just wanted to point out policy BBE, and just read the first part. Vacancies shall be filled through board appointment. This is called vacancies on the board. The board appointee must be a registered voter and a resident within the district for 1 year immediately preceding the appointment, and a resident of the zone from which the vacancy has occurred. So that just would be, unfortunately. So that's all right. Wanted to hear some of what you had to say, but just to bring that on there. And like I said earlier, I would encourage you to apply to other things too, but I just wanted to say that. So
No, it's cool. I appreciate you pointing out. Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question. You know, We've been a community a little bit in turmoil, and I'm just wondering if you have any concerns about being on the board.
I'll take it first. I am a citizen of Newburgh, so I have heard and seen everything that has gone on in the last few years. Of course, I think anybody would be concerned. I think regardless of the online chatter, even, you know, if we were in a totally politically neutral town, the budget crisis would cause me concern. So there are different areas that are concerning. I am, for better or worse, a person that cannot stand by. It is not in my nature. If I feel like I can make a difference, I will show up. So I am able to put aside those concerns, I think, to better my community. And I would also look forward to working collaboratively with you all, knowing that you have more experience than I do, knowing that whatever discomfort, well, knowing that whatever discomfort I was going through, that you were probably feeling similar. And I would seek your guidance in assisting with that. At the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, I love Newburgh for better or worse. And I'm willing to, you know, go through some hard stuff if it means a good spot for our educators and our students in the end.
Thank you.
Do I have any concerns? I absolutely have a ton of concerns about it. And I will say that I pride myself on being an authentic person. If anything, I will be firm in the values that I believe are what our education system needs to espouse and move forward. I am, in my work and all of the work that I do, whether it is as an educator in the classroom, in an office, as the chair of a department, whatever the job is, I believe that my job is to carry forth the collective values of the body. I am always going to press for the values that represent people that have sat at the margin in the history of the nation. There is no doubt in I hope in anybody's mind that that is who I am. Alongside that, I believe that it is quite critical to represent the collective values of the community. I think when I hear we need transparency, that is one of the things that is a collective value of this community. There are undoubtedly other values. Personal values are for our homes. Those are things that anybody can have. What we bring to serve the community needs to represent the best interest of the entire community. I don't think my values are misaligned with that. They're not going to be popular with everyone. I know I have a wonderful fan club already. And so, yes, do I have concerns about that? Of course. I also believe that no individual anywhere is inhuman in their own way. That also makes us, as human beings, fallible. We all have problems and issues, and sometimes those are the things that people like to pick at. You know, the scab that folks like to dig at, and that's okay, because I'm not electing to serve in these positions or in these roles to necessarily be popular. I'm doing it because I think it's a service that that I can bring to my community for its wellness.
Thank you. I think I'm going to cut off questions now and thank you. And Lucas, thank you for coming, even though we didn't realize you hadn't been living
You're
here
all
for a
good.
year.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. I appreciate the opportunity.
thank
Y'all
you.
are fine. I feel like we're best friends now. So, okay. Yeah.
And we're
yeah.
glad you're in the community and welcome.
Let's do it.
So
Yes.
we will make a decision at our next meeting in a week on the 18th. And so thank you very much for the things. And now we'll invite the you're welcome to come. It's a public meeting. I don't. Yeah, make a decision. That'd be fine. Yeah. 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 And
Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Seeing your application.
Now we have 7 applicants to be student representatives for next year. We're doing this a little bit earlier. 4 here. Okay. Okay, calling the meeting back to order. We have in the board in our policy, we appoint 3 members from the high school to serve. And last year we did it much later and they didn't have as much experience. So this year we wanted to do it at the end of the school year so that they'd be able to serve the full year. And we had 7 applicants and 4 of them are here tonight. And the board, everybody has the applications. And so first, I think I'll just start down there with Sienna. And if you'll introduce yourself, you know, what grade you are and what caused you to apply to be a student representative. I'd appreciate it. And then we'll just go down the row here. Thank you.
Got it. Hi, my name is Sienna Hansen, and I am a junior in high school. I actually heard about this from my friend Esther, who did the Board of Representatives, the student for the Board of Representatives, and she was talking about it in class the other day. And I was listening to her talk about it, and it was interesting to hear her talk about her voice and like what she got to say and how she got to not only have something to say, but she got to listen in on these meetings. And when you're at the high school and you hear a lot in the halls and you hear a lot from students and from teachers, you're intrigued to know what is going on. And I think that the best source to get to know what's going on and to get to be a part of something and to share what you're hearing is to be here and present at it. And so after hearing about her talking to my teacher about it, I was interested in being one of the people that got to be here and to not only listen, but to be someone who got to share what I'm hearing at high school and what I hear from my peers.
Thank you. Melanie?
So my name is Melanie Bedoya Martinez. First, my English is bad because I'm Mexican, so I'm nervous. But my idea for the board students, it's like the Latin community introduce. Sorry. I don't know.
You're doing okay. Just keep going. We're friendly. Would you like a translator?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. You can. You want to just come up to a mic? Okay, thank you. Melanie, if you can pull your microphone towards you because your voice is soft anyway, and you have to speak right into the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
So puedes decir lo que vayas a decir en español y yo les voy a traducir.
Ok, mi idea de esto es introducir más a la comunidad latina.
So the idea for being a part of a student representative is so I could introduce more of what the Latinx community has to say in the schools.
Porque he visto que en la escuela de Newburgh no hay mucho, o sea, que los estudiantes latinos están muy separados de los demás, entonces lo que me gustaría hacer es como hacer actividades o cosas para introducirlos o que se junten más, que convivan más.
There's a lot of segregation in our schools. The Latinx students don't always engage with the other students, and I would like this opportunity to bring ideas forward of how we can be a more united community within the schools. ¿Algo más que quieras decir?
Pues, esto.
Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin?
So there are many reasons why this is something I really wanted to do. And one of the first ones is that Fred is one of my very close friends and close members of the FFA. And hearing his experiences and his passion for doing this really made me want to do it. So he asked me to do this, and I really want to do this. So FFA has taught me a lot of things, which include advocacy and literacy. So I want to be the voice of the 200 plus members of the FFA every year. Those are all of our accidents in Newburgh. And I really wish that their voices could be heard. A lot of them don't know how to get their voice out or how to communicate with larger groups of people and things like that. I really wish they could all be heard. And then literacy is that we are taught to go out and find these issues and find these things that we are passionate about and express our opinions to anyone that will listen. And I want to make sure that everyone that I know gets their opinion heard. And then also one of the things that I was taught was that I should repay the people that have helped me. So I would really enjoy to give back to those people that are either my members or my peers or my past teachers. And I want to make sure that I can give them all the voice that they deserve.
Thank you. And Oliver?
Hi, I'm Oliver, and I heard about this opportunity through email, and I saw it, and I thought, you know what, I might as well go ahead and do this. I want to I've had a lot. I've lived in Newburgh for my entire life, and I've gone through the system of public education here in Newburgh, and I just want to I love it, and I want to be able to represent the voice of the people of Newburgh. And I am very lucky to have been in accelerated math classes, and I've had very good teachers that have just helped me through and helped me, I would say, succeed in the whole Newburgh School District. Let's go somewhere with this. And I would absolutely love to make sure that other students get an opportunity to have, throughout all grade levels in all the schools, an opportunity to have a quality education and end up in a good place when they're in high school. I also want to bring the voice of the queer community of our school district. I am a member of the queer community. A lot of that comes from being a big part of the theater program, of which I also speak for a lot of students. I'm the current thespian president for this next year of the thespian board at Newburgh High School. I just really want to speak for this marginalized voice of the queer community at Newburgh School District, and make sure that they are heard on the board, and that everybody knows that they are cared about in this district and that they can have their voice heard.
Thank you. Are there questions from board members? All of us have your resumes that you submitted, and it's encouraging that two of you had friends who were on the student representatives this year who encouraged you to do it, so that it was a good experience. That's positive.
I have a question, and what challenges do you think you'll have in terms of participating if you're chosen to be on the board, and if you do have challenges, how can we help alleviate those so you can be a full participant on the board?
Yes, go ahead.
I think that being a part of the board is, and especially for students, even though there are 4 of us, that is still 4 people that is representing an entire school of kids. And I think to some degree that puts some pressure that you're representing not your voice, but you're representing a school's voice. And I think that that does put a pressure on as a student to be able to represent everyone's and not just what you're thinking, but to be able to put into thought what you're hearing from your students, your peers, your teammates, your classmates. And I guess for me, that puts a pressure onto my mind that I'm not saying what I want at the times or not saying always what are my ideas, but are what I hear at school and what I hear from the people that I go to school with. And so that is a little bit of a pressure to put on. And also pressure, I know that it's like this expectation to have answers and that you're not always going to have answers or you're not always going to have an input that might be able to give people what they want, especially at school.
Thank you.
La pregunta fue que qué desafíos crees que puedes tener siendo parte de la mesa directiva como representante de estudiante y según los desafíos, qué es lo que puede hacer la mesa directiva para apoyarte para que puedas participar completamente. Language would be primarily the challenge here. So having interpretation would alleviate being able to participate fully. She's taking this opportunity in a way to not only continue learning her English, but also learning the system in which she's being educated, and see what other opportunities there are to expand her knowledge here.
Thank you.
I believe that I won't have many issues because I understand a lot of what you do, and I feel like I could very confidently do a lot of the things you were asking of. One of the things that I think I'll struggle most with is the misinformation around the high school. The misinformation around the high school will be something that I strongly struggle with. I mean, today people were coming up and asking me if they were going to cut FFA. That's not even possible. So I think that one of the things I'll struggle with is making sure that everyone gets to understand this information and being able to get the correct ideas and the strong ideas and the actual ideas that need to be represented.
I think time-wise, the time commitment would be doable. I'm very committed to being on this board, spending the time I need, as it is a choice position and puts a lot of responsibility for me to be listening to the people around me at my school, everyone I interact with, listening, and for making sure that people also know what correctly is going on in our school district. And I think having to speak for everyone will be doable, and say everything that is said, say all the ideas people are having, what the general thoughts of the student body is, bring that to the board. So there's a more in-depth view of, no matter the factuality of the thoughts, still what students are thinking and what they're wanting, what they're worrying about. And that might be a bit of pressure on me, but I believe I can handle this position.
Thank you. Other questions from other board members?
I know that we've had a goal that rather than just being here and attending these meetings, that you collectively, as the 3 who get chosen, would take on some kind of initiative to challenge yourselves to bring something to the board. Is there anything that you would think specifically you would like to see done from your role in being able to do something for the schools more generally, or any ideas that you might want to bring with you? Start Oliver.
One thing that I mentioned in my essay was the higher level classes for students and opportunities for students to have more of a say in having more advanced or higher up classes. I have a friend of mine who is at the level for his grade, but he can understand the material of a higher grade and does wish that there was an easier way for him to be higher up. And I know we have accelerated courses that students can take for mathematics. And I think an opportunity for other courses for students to take other than that, or give them more of a say in what classes they want to take, especially AP classes, would be useful. I also, there's, I have a few things. At the schools, there's a lot of people who I just see that aren't really. I want to make sure that everyone at our schools feels loved and respected. Everybody at the schools, and I see just frequently in the main building, just people being disrespected and made fun of, and talk that is racist or homophobic, and a lot of remarks from a lot of students that would be, I think it would be correct to kind of quell these remarks, like disencourage them from happening, and make sure people are also just well educated about, I mean, obviously that's the point, people being well educated, but well educated about issues that would make them more respectful of their peers. I also, it doesn't seem like I have a time limit. I also do see a problem, which these problems I've listed are not easy to solve or attempt, but I think there's this third one. I also do see a problem with drug use in the high school, and I'm sure in the middle school, that absolutely needs to be addressed. And students not having information on safety of these things would, I'm sure, encourage people to not do it anymore. And it's not pleasant when you have to worry about, like, oh, don't go to this bathroom, it smells really bad right now, you know, but that's part of the larger issue of just the drug use in the schools, encouraging antisocial, hurtful, harmful behavior. It takes up people's time, it takes up people's money, and it's generally not going to encourage students to want to work or succeed if this is a persistent problem within, even if you aren't a user, it might still affect you. It might still affect your friends, how they spend their time, and how they care about education, because every student is going to be influenced by every other student. They're going to see what this person is doing. And if a lot of people around you don't really seem to care, you might not really seem to care about getting a good education either. Thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the issues that I wrote about in my essay was culture around things like testing, like state testing, was not great this year. People blatantly refused to do it, skipped it, things like that. And then culture in our whole school, just no matter where it is, people treat other people awfully all the time. And I think the things that we could all work on is just getting students resources for things they need, so that they can treat everyone fairly and equally and respectfully, just so that we can improve the culture. Because like, I see people that would rather refuse to go to school, they switch to online school, or they refuse to show up just because they would rather avoid the people at the school. And I really wish that could change.
Can you repeat the question so I can?
Yeah. Just this idea of student representatives, instead of just attending these meetings to be here, finding a way that they could find a project or something that they could do collectively to address an aspect of school life or
La pregunta es que no solo quiere que estén en estas reuniones nomás para escuchar, pero qué son algunas de las ideas que traes para aportar a la reunión o para que puedan trabajar entre ustedes, que pueda ayudar a las escuelas en algún tema que te apasione o
Can she turn on her mic?
puedes prender el micrófono.
Thank you.
Primero me gustaría unir a la comunidad latina con los americanos, pues porque es algo que está muy marcado en la escuela, la verdad he visto demasiado que está muy marcado. Y también me gustaría, pues dar ideas sobre cómo pueden mejorar las escuelas, porque hay algunos detalles por los que los estudiantes, pues tienen problemas como cosas, detalles de la escuela, como en los salones, o algunos maestros o alumnos y cosas que veo.
Permíteme. Primarily integration between the different cultures would be one thing. And two, just seeing improvements in classrooms. I'm assuming she's talking about maintenance, and I'll clarify in a second, but that's something that she said. Cuando dices de los salones, ¿te refieres a cosas que les haga falta a los salones?
No, sino que, bueno, sí, o sea, sí, en parte. Sí.
Okay, yes.
También me gustaría saber más, pues, sobre cómo es que funcionan las escuelas americanas, porque pues no sé mucho. Y me gustaría dar ideas sobre cosas, bueno, ideas que tengo de México que podrían implementar en escuelas aquí.
¿Hace cuánto llegaste?
Hace un año.
Okay. I would also like to bring forward, I want to learn more about how the school systems work here, and also integrate some of the ideas from how schools work in other countries like Mexico.
Thank you. Sienna?
I would focus a little bit more on the academics part of school, which is obviously the biggest part of school. But as you get higher up in classes, and I think as you get into higher maths and science, as you get older, it feels like help starts to get more limited. And I see that as I have been in harder classes, and especially like pre-calc this year, and being in some sciences that were struggling, hard with comprehension, it felt hard to find help. And I know that teachers have limited time and that's a hard expectation, but I think that it would be helpful to find resources on how students can get help. And even if it's not a teacher, having ways that students can find help or look up help or get help for classes that they might not know how to. And then on that kind of is that I have a sister in middle school, and I hear a lot about what happens there. And in middle school, she has a hard time too with contacting teachers or not understanding things or missing a day of school and not being able to catch up for long periods of time. And when you're middle schoolers, you don't always have the best communication either. If you're not great with email, if you don't have a phone, if your parents are still the ones that are contacting people for you. And I think it would be helpful to find a way for younger kids, elementary and middle school, to have a way to be able to talk to their teachers or to have more time to be able to understand projects and assignments given to them than just the class time that is explained with lots of students and not a lot of time for each kid to understand it.
Okay, thank you. I think unless there's other questions, we'll tell you thank you. And for the board, we have a Google document, and we give ratings, and we will be contacting you hopefully by phone. I know school's getting out really soon, but we would like to have the information back from the board if possible by the next board meeting. And this is on Tabitha sent this out to everybody as the Google Doc.
just to clarify the July board meeting.
No, I meant the 18th.
Okay.
The June 18th. So that we can contact students, so they'll know that they can come to the July board meeting if they're in town, which we hope they are. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for translating. Awesome.
Oh. On our reports, presidents, and discussion items, we had policy BK board evaluation. And that in the board pack was on page 27. It's just said the board will plan an annual evaluation. And we're not going to do that tonight. We will postpone it to either July or August. We do plan to evaluate ourselves, and we will use the guidelines by the Oregon School Boards Association that they provide to all boards in Oregon. But in the essence of time, we decided that was not a use time. The next item is a Newburgh Enterprise Zone, City of Newburgh presentation about funding. And Clay Downing, the planning manager for Newburgh, will be coming and speaking. Why don't you sit down at one place where there's a mic so that we can all hear you? And you are representing telling us about the Newburgh Enterprise Zone.
That's right.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
So for the record, my name's Clay Downing. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members, for having me here. Thank you, everyone who's watching, whether it's in Zoom land or here in person. So this is going to be a relatively short presentation. And so what we're doing, this is part of the outreach that we're doing and part of the school district's opportunity to participate in the enterprise zone. So there's a relatively new piece of legislation that adds a school support fee piece to how enterprise zones work. And this is a type of economic development incentive. And so the city council has directed staff to start preparing this. It's something that's been in place since 2014, and we're preparing for redesignation, which is just another word for renewal. So we're preparing to renew it. We want to basically have an opportunity or have a hook in our toolbox so that we can have more companies locate in Newburgh, invest in Newburgh, or reinvest if they're already here. And that can be either through jobs or assets. And so I'm going to go through some of those things in this presentation. It'll be relatively short. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on this. And it is related to an action item that's later on the agenda. And I'll talk about that kind of at the end too. So a lot of text on this slide. Most of this to say some of the things. This is a tax incentive. So it's a tax abatement program. It lets companies basically opt out of if they make certain commitments to the taxes associated with the investment they're doing. That can be an investment in jobs or an investment in assets associated with a given organization that's participating in this. Like I said, it's been in place since 2014. We've had 5 or 6 applications come through for this in that time. So not exactly a flood of applications, but we've had a few. And we've had only one that's really gone through it successfully. One of the 2 items under bullet 3 that mention eligible investments and non-qualifying investments, that's what we talk about when we say assets and jobs. And so those are large immovable things that are going to stay here, not something that a company could buy and then take off to a plant somewhere else in a different location. So there's a number of things that wouldn't be considered eligible for these sorts of investments. The school support fee that we'll talk about in a couple of slides is related to a piece of this enterprise zone. Each application we get is typically a standard enterprise zone application that's 3 years in length. And then organizations have an opportunity to extend that up to 4 or 5 years if they choose to. And that's where the school support fee comes into effect. To be eligible for that sort of an extension, these organizations have to make a little bit higher level of commitment or higher quality of a commitment. And I'll mention that, I think, on the next slide here. There's no limit to the number of times an organization can request this. They can basically do it once, and then when they get through that, they can apply again, as long as this continues to be available. But the city is doing this essentially as an administration of a state program. So this is set up through state legislation, and local jurisdictions can opt into it if they want to have some kind of a tax incentive in place. Thank you. So this table shows just a few of the minimum qualifying criteria associated with these. On the right hand of this table is really where the school support fee and the school district's kind of consideration for the action for tonight is going to come into play. But the minimum investment is $50,000, regardless of whether it's for a 3-year duration or a 5-year duration. The minimum employment, so if they're investing in not assets but jobs, would just be 1 employee. And then there is a difference, and then the minimum new employment for that existing company would show that there's a 10% increase in the first year. And then the last item is really the only thing that makes a significant difference, and that's where the minimum average compensation per employee. So in the standard enterprise zone for 3 years, it could really be at any type of a job, regardless of what it is. But for the extension period, it's going to have to be 150% of the county's average wage. And so it requires a little bit higher quality of investment in jobs if that's going to happen. Okay. So a few more details associated with the enterprise zone. And I apologize that I couldn't make these slides a little more exciting. They're basically a little bit text heavy, but some of the things the city has opted into a couple of waiver options that are available as part of the enterprise zone. So if there's a minimum $25 million investment, that has not happened with any of our applicants or with the folks that have done this successfully, then there's no reduction and there's no, sorry, there's a waiver where if they make an investment of 25 million or demonstrate an increase in productivity and no reduction in workforce, the firm coordinates with the local schools and an internship. So it basically lets them offset if they don't meet certain obligations. It lets them offset by making donations back into the STEM programs. And here, when that has been taken advantage of that waiver, it's been through Tiger Manufacturing. So they weren't at the $25 million threshold, but they didn't meet some of the obligations they needed to in the program. And so they ended up putting those tax abatement dollars, instead of realizing them as a benefit for themselves, they were required to invest those in a program locally. And so that was into Tiger Manufacturing at the high school, is my understanding. And that was through ARE Manufacturing, as that one applicant that was participating that way, which is a really unique program. And so to see those incentives go there is great, in our opinion. There is a construction in progress exemption. So we typically have folks apply for it, but if they've already started doing work, they can get an exemption so that if they get credit for the things that they're already doing, that they're already in progress for. So we're basically trying to allow that to cast a wider net so that if a company finds out about this after they've already started that investment, and it's something that's, for example, construction, they might be eligible to do that. The fourth bullet on here talks a little bit about hotels and motels. And so that is one that the city has chosen not to pursue. And so in the program, you could make certain types of businesses eligible. I'll talk in a couple of slides about the map and where we have our enterprise zone. It does not cover the entire city. It covers portions of the city, but they're primarily industrial in nature. And so they haven't been extended to hotels and motels. And then the program is scheduled right now to sunset in 2032, but that's a long enough way off that we don't know if that will be moved out further. So that could always happen. Okay, there it is. So a few items on the map that went past it. Sorry about that. There we go. So that kind of teal color that we see here is the area that's covered by the enterprise zone. What you'll notice is that's down near the river, and a large chunk of it is that down near the mill site. So that is about 100 kind of lots or properties, total of 361 acres, and all of them right now are varying types of industrial zone land. So they're not on commercially zoned land, it's not on residentially zoned land or anything like that. So it's really targeting that industrial and manufacturing sectors is primarily where we've chosen to do that. The city council could choose to change the boundaries if they would like to. For this redesignation, staff have not been asked to do that. There's been some general talk about it at the city council. The last time we went and spoke with them in approximately, I think it was either February or March, but we don't have any direction to do that at this point. If we did, it seemed like there was still a general interest in keeping that consistent with industrial zoned areas. And again, keeping in mind that this is for investment in Newburgh, the idea is to get either new companies to locate here or have our current companies reinvest in what they're doing here with more jobs that can help residents in Newburgh, or to invest in assets for those companies that can lead to sustainable organizations here for the jobs in town. So the process for this is not too arduous, but some of the things that we've been required to do at the city in preparing for this are meeting with staff from business organs, since we'll be administering a state program, providing notice to all the taxing districts in Yamhill County that it would be kind of share areas inside of this enterprise zone. So that would be all of the taxing districts were notified, and we did meet with school district staff So the superintendent and additional staff attended previously to an outreach meeting and had a separate meeting that was just to talk about the school support fee as opposed to the program at large. And then this will be going to Yamhill County for adoption by the commissioners, or a resolution supporting it, I believe. And so that is essentially because there's a small piece of unincorporated property associated with this that's outside of city limits. But most of the enterprise zone is located inside of city limits. And they're expected to do that. I don't remember the board date off the top of my head, but it's our city council, I believe, is scheduled to go on July 3rd. And it's sometime between July 3rd and now. So it's coming up pretty soon. And I will also say that I am actually not the program administrator for this. I'm the manager of the individual who's doing it, but he's out of the office right now. So if you do have any questions this evening that I can't answer, I'll be happy to find them for you, but it is possible you'll give me something that I can't answer, and we're happy to provide that information. And after we go through those adoptions of establishing a school support fee, the adoptions that are going to happen, or the resolutions that get adopted by both Yamhill County commissioners and by the city council, then it'll go to business organ to provide that documentation, and we'll be able to continue kind of operating this program for folks. All right, so the school support fee, again, too text heavy, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to go through a few of the bullet items on here. And this does accompany a couple of pages that are in your board packets. So there's just 2 pages. One is a map of the enterprise zone, and the other one is a bunch of tables with figures on them. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those. So the school support fee is somewhat unique in that in 2023, there was new legislation that came through as House Bill 2009. And so it created a school support fee so that if an applicant wanted to do an extension, there was a recovery of some of those tax funds by the school, and the school can decide how to calibrate that. And so it's setting a rate for that school support fee. So the school support fee is supposed to exist. It's new, so there's only a handful of examples, but can be as low as 15%, as high as 30%. It's supposed to be established at whole percent increments, except for at 22.5, because that's right in the middle of the 30% and the 15%. So it only applies to the 4th and 5th years. So that's the only applications where the school support fee would occur. But it applies to the standard programs. Sorry. So the way that it's kind of typically described is 4th and 5th years of a standard program. So it only applies to those extensions, and it actually gets a savings back associated with the total tax exemption associated with it. So that's what the calculation is based out of. And it occurs, that collection of that fee by the school district would occur on November 1st each year, is my understanding. So, or at least we initiate the process for that collection. There's some going back and forth between the Yamhill County assessor, with the city, with the organization, and with the with business organ. So that's when that's scheduled to occur or initiate. Some of the items that are in the tables that are in your board packet talk about the annual projected school support fees for just that 4th and 5th year exemption. So that's kind of what would be recovered by the school district, the net incentive, and that's to the organization, and then the overall impact of the enterprise zone abatement. So what that's supposed to demonstrate, and the way those tables are organized, is it shows the tiers. If your board were to select the 15% rate, the 22.5%, the 30% rate, and what happens if that organization were to be investing $50,000 or $500,000 or $100,000 or $10,000. And so it just tries to show a little bit of what that school support fee would be, what the remaining incentive would be for the organization, and what the impact, kind of the foregone revenue for the school district would be in those cases. So I will say very clearly that when we're coming at this from the city, it's as a economic development incentive. We want folks to have more jobs in Newburgh. And so the one where the organization gets the highest benefit is at that 15% rate. And so the school district would be foregoing more money at that point. But at a 30%, there's a more recovery by the school district. And so it's at your discretion how to do those. Now, those could have large investments that could qualify for this. We haven't seen those as part of these programs yet, but I want to mention that as part of the fact that we have a 100-acre industrial site that's inside of this enterprise zone. And so it seems appropriate to share and just make you aware of that. We hope to see someone locate there, invest in both assets and jobs so that we have that in Newburgh in our pipeline. But I would also say that from our side for economic development, we want folks to come here and get jobs, to have families, to be part of our housing, to be part of our community. So we see that as a long-range benefit. And so we're hoping that the school district is supportive, but we can understand if there are qualms because this is a tax incentive program. And it means that there's tax abatement that's going on that's not going into the same coffers. And so with that, I believe this is my last slide. There we go. And so the request today is that as part of your action items that you'll make a motion to establish a school support fee rate for the redesignation of the Newburgh Enterprise Zone. But to be clear, it's the city council that is primarily driving and making the decision on this, but the school support fee is your fee. So making that decision is what we're hoping that you'll do so we can know that clearly. In speaking with Business Oregon, 15% rate has been the most common, but it's a very small sample size because it's relatively new. With respect to what we want as the city, we're really looking at it as an economic development tool. So 15% is what we're the most happy with, but it's not our money. So it's the funds that belong to the school district. And so we're asking for your input on this so that we can calibrate it correctly and so that we can move forward with the project. And with that, that's the end of my project, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or end of my presentation. Sorry.
The first thing I was wondering is we got, a little bit in the packet. Would there be a way to share your slides with so they can be posted on the website later?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I wasn't aware that they hadn't been shared. Unfortunately, until earlier today, I thought that I was basically here to answer
we have
questions.
the 2 pages that you had about the tax code and then the map, but the other slides were new information.
I saw those and I'm absolutely happy to share those. That's
Okay.
not a problem whatsoever.
So yeah, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of that was, whew. So tell me if I'm understanding this right, trying to incentivize businesses to come here. What we're doing though is they won't be paying property tax, which affects the money that the school district gets in. And then we can set this percentage that would come back for the 4th or 5th year if someone was to be eligible for that specific 4th, 5th year option.
And so first of all, I would say I agree with you. It can be a lot, especially when it's just talking numbers and it's kind of vague. So thank you. But yes, so if they, 1, choose to opt into doing an extension, and then 2, they qualify for that extension, then the school support fee is designed to help the school recover some of those abated tax dollars. And it's not on all of the taxes that are abated are those associated with that investment. So whatever that investment value is the abatement value.
Do you know of other school districts who have participated in this?
There's, I don't know the number of enterprise zones throughout the state, but there are a pretty healthy number throughout the state of cities that are participating. So presumably the school districts are, because again, the decision to participate is at the city council level. And so when we conducted outreach, which I will tell you makes it somewhat awkward for doing the outreach, as we say, we're doing this project and we're telling you about it. But the school districts are part of that. And so I have a feeling that this legislation was primarily intended to soften those for when they do come in and they do those. And that was one of the reasons that we also wanted to provide some of those forecasted figures that are the ones that are in there so that you could see, if someone is making let's say a $500,000 investment, the school support fee, the school support fee would recover $1,192. The incentive to the business is a total of $7,949.90. And then the impact rates, depending on how that's set, if it's just a 3-year program, there's an impact on the school district over that period of $23,849.70. But sorry, let me make sure I'm looking at. That's the projected overall value of the abatement. So the abatement itself goes. Oh, sorry, that's why I was looking at this wrong. I apologize. You'll see that for it's lowest in that column under 500,000 when it's just the standard exemption because they're only making presumably a more limited participation in the program. And then when you increase the cost recovery rate, it starts stepping down a little bit from that 15% rate where you have school support fee recovery. And then as you go to the 30% rate, you get the tax abatement total figure is lower because more has come back to the school and the school support fee.
And to this point, there's been nothing that would have given back through the school support fee currently through the enterprise zone.
That's right. So the school support fee did not exist until the adoption in 2023. So those enterprise zone programs that are being redesignated now this year are the first that we'll be doing. It's part of why we have such a small sample size on those items. So this is a new opportunity for the school to recover some of those costs if they choose to do those.
Point of clarification. So the example you just used a moment ago was 500,000, and if it was 15%, we would get 1,192.49. Is that per year? So is that year 4 and 5?
I believe that's both for years 4 and 5.
So that's a combined.
That's a combined number for those 2 years. So my understanding from my staffer that put these together is intended to represent the gross for those periods.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And that would go for both that table in blue and the table in green for the annual school support fee and the net incentive.
And I guess my last clarification would be this program's happening. We can decide if we want 15, 22.5 or 25 or 30.
Or any single percentage increment in between those figures, but yes.
So is that why it shows up here, existing Newburgh School District shares 38.2, or is that associated to the percentages we've talked about so far, or is that something to do with the top graph?
That has to do with the top graph. I believe that shares this task out of someone's total tax bill. 38.2 is the typical percentage that comes to the school district out of those taxes for local tax districts. So the biggest share anyway is typically the school of when someone pays those taxes to local tax districts.
Yeah, thank you.
Would this be something that would be a forever rate, or would we be able to revisit this? So say, for example, we wanted to do a higher one now because we're in a budget crisis, but maybe we get through that, and in a few years where city comes to us and is asking us to drop it down to 15. Is that a possibility?
That's a great question that no one's asked so far. So I don't have the answer for it, but I would say that there is a redesignation period. So at a minimum, it could be revisited during a redesignation. If it could be revisited before, then I don't know, but I'd be happy to find out and we could send that back to you.
Thank you.
Is there a time limit for the city to know the school district's decision?
I don't know the answer to that one either, because according to our folks with Business Oregon, it hasn't come up, and that the school districts, it has just occurred, and they didn't tell us what happened if someone said they didn't want to, or it didn't come along in time. So we would be comfortable with whatever decision that your school board would like to make. But if you don't feel comfortable making that decision now, if you need some time to think about it, we can talk to Business Oregon and see what that means for this program. If one isn't established, if that creates a default where they go to one versus the other, and I don't know the answer to that, or if it holds up the program and its designation. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know that either. And so I'm happy to look into that if you'd like.
I would request that.
I think it's good. I mean, we have a board meeting in a week if we really need to. If we have a board meeting in a week, we have one next month. There's plenty of meetings between now and then to get this done. As we mentioned earlier, 2 or 3 weeks seems like.
So I think the consensus is that we would like to have a little more information at least, and we can put it back on the agenda on the 18th and not make a vote tonight. Maybe some answers to those questions.
Now that I have a better idea of this, did you show on a slide the amount of current investments in the enterprise zones?
I have not, and I don't have those figures at my fingertips. I'm trying to remember what they are. We could probably pull that up.
I guess I'm just curious, like where we are currently at, the goals that we would have to get somewhere bigger, depending on choices that are made now.
Sure, that's reasonable. And so what I can do is look through our projects or applications that we've taken in the past that have been going through the program. And so we have one that I don't recall if they stopped at the 3-year mark or if they went for an extended period, but they're about to finish and then they're planning on re-entering the program in July. So, which is a good thing that they want to continue doing it. And so should be able to provide those informations. And if I'm going to be coming back on the 18th, which we would be happy to do, can provide that to you. Unfortunately, that staffer that knows this program better than I do, he'll still be gone. So, but I'll be happy to come back and can provide some of that information too. And the ability to modify is what I heard. So can we do that and when could that occur? I'd be happy to answer that. And what happens if basically a non-selection or if one isn't selected, what happens in that case? And then prior investments.
Maybe even instead of just the 18th with your employee being gone, would they be back in July?
They're scheduled to be back on I believe they should be back by Monday on the following week, which would be the 20.
Could you, with that, could you find out if there's a time crunch on this?
Mhm.
If there's not, maybe you and or the person who knows, we could have this in our July meeting. If there is a time crunch, then we can add it to maybe our one next week.
Sure. And I mean, I will say that
The chair.
for a sake of basically cleanliness where we're going with those adoptions, we would definitely prefer to have it before July because July 3rd is when we're planning on adopting with the city council. However, and because we don't want to create a gap, particularly one that's too long where it starts creating problems if the program lapses, because we could have applications come into that time. We want to make sure that doesn't create problems for them. But happy to come back with those. And so is it the will of this board that we would come back on the 18th or the following week, preferably?
I'm okay either one. I think just is communicating with our board leadership on some of that and putting that on the agenda.
I think whatever works best for you and the person in charge. Either we have a meeting on the 18th, we have a meeting on the 25th, we have a meeting in July. So lots of.
Okay, well, we're happy to come back. And so what I will do is I'll communicate with the school district's staff to make sure that we can get that information. I would say that for the 18th, we can at least get some of the question answers and share those materials and make sure that those get to you so that you've got that was an informational item. And then I'll look through and see what we think we need to present that would help with the decision-making process and see if coming back with that week of the 24th makes more sense. Or if it does seem that there's some kind of time-sensitive issue that creates a problem or defaults you into something that you might not want to select, then, so I just don't want your choice to be taken away for you, and in which case I would come back sooner.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. I am looking at this a little bit more, and I'm an analyst at heart. I see a lot of this green is kind of where Smurfit was. I know there's a whole new development effort that's going in there. You, as a city planning area, have any thoughts of like what's going to happen over the next few years with that, and maybe give projections? I know they, the person has to apply, and then you have to agree, but like what could be some of the potential outcomes of some of those areas? Again, I don't know what's planned there. All my time's right now school board, so I have not even thought about city expansion. So.
And that's fair. And thank you for that, because that is a substantial piece of where this could occur. So with economic development, usually it's trying to think of it like a toolbox where you want to have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and typically you want to layer them and try and work them together. And so we have that site specifically is located in our urban renewal zone, which urban renewal, if you're not familiar with it, is tax increment financing, and it's intended to unblight an area. So you're supposed to turn an area that needs extra love, take the taxes, and really focus them into that area to bring it back up to the standards that the rest of the city is already experiencing, hopefully. And then in addition to that, we've got this enterprise zone. So to me, and I wasn't here when these were drawn, I've actually only been working with the city for a little less than 2 years. And to me, it looks like someone drew up the zone boundaries for this enterprise zone map primarily to focus investment in those areas for this tool. There's a handful of other industrial zoned areas throughout the city, but this is the biggest one by far. And so I don't know how they decided that these ones were the ones that were ripe and kind of left the other ones out. I don't really know how that worked, but that is an area that essentially the demolition has occurred and there's still, I believe the owners are participating in the voluntary cleanup program with the site. So demolition, rubble and those sorts of things, those are done. Some mild cleanup stuff with DEQ is occurring, but EPA has indicated that they've done their initial evaluation, don't need to be involved anymore, which is good. And it's ripe and they're kind of their real estate representative, who is the individual we speak to the most. They're actively looking for lead responses and we work with them and we work with SEDCOR, who's the local or the regional economic development folks that give us assistance on these. And so we're hoping to see something that at least brings back the number of jobs that we saw there before. And so for us, that's approximately 200 jobs or so. So if you think of the number of households that could do good for, that's what we're hoping to see. It's not our property, so we don't get to really have the final say so on that. But we do work with those folks that would develop that property and they know what our interests are. And primarily it's for jobs. Asset investment is good, helps the tax base. It's good for those sorts of things, but jobs that help people in the community are even better. So,
Thank you.
So yeah, we don't know too much more than that.
Thank you, and we'll see you in a week or so. Thank you.
Okay, see you then. Thank you very much.
Sherry, before we go on to action items, can we do a 5 or 10 minute break?
Yes, we can take, let's do a 5-minute We're gonna call the meeting back to order. Oh, the TV station was. Yep. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order and we added one thing onto the agenda, or two things onto the agenda for tonight. One was hiring an interim superintendent. The other one was a resolution for payment. And so to start this, I'd like to express that last night, right before the budget meeting, I and other board members learned that Dr. Phillips needed to take leave. And I understand it's currently anticipated to be a leave of about 2 months. It is critical for daily district operations to have an acting superintendent. We have been advised that the appointment of an acting superintendent cannot wait. Upon learning the need for leave and in my capacity of chair, this morning, last night I called Dr. Joe Morlock because he's the ESD and he said he would assist us and he would have his legal counsel, Christine Nesbitt, who is with ESD, contact me. And she contacted me first thing this morning. And we discussed possibilities. And with her permission, I contacted Dr. Paula Radish, a former superintendent of the school district, to see if she'd be willing to serve as an acting superintendent on an emergency basis. She has indicated that she is willing to serve the district as acting superintendent on a voluntary basis without any expectation of any compensation of any kind. There, as many of you know, Dr. Radish was a superintendent in the school districts for, I think, about 11 years, several years ago. She has volunteered and she is willing to start tomorrow if the board approves. Our attorney has a contract ready for us to sign as soon as there's an approval made. Because this is urgent, it was pointed out to us, the appointment would be up to 60 days and can be longer if needed. And so discussion, this has not been discussed in executive session. It may be actually new news to some board members, the name of this. Our attorney talked to us in executive session, but no mention of who or anything, because we wanted to make sure we're abiding by open meeting laws. So is there any questions, any discussions?
No, that's great news. Very, very great news, especially the no compensation part and who it is. She was the superintendent when I attended school here and very excited. So it's great news.
And I believe she'll be very mindful about snow days.
So what, do we need to make a motion then?
Yes, we need to make a motion and this is from our attorney. We need to make a motion. This is from our attorney and I can hand it over to Deb to make it.
As there is an immediate need for the board to appoint an acting superintendent, I move that the board appoint Dr. Paula Radich as its acting superintendent for a period of 60 days, which, if needed, could be extended by the parties. The effective date of Dr. Radich's appointment would be tomorrow, June 12th at noon. I also move that the board chair enter into a written agreement with Dr. Radich in a form that is approved by the district legal counsel. A copy of the agreement shall be provided to the board as a whole upon its execution.
That's the whole motion.
Do I read this whole?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do I need to read that?
Just a minute. I'm reading what we got from the attorney.
Yeah. That's the second.
Okay, it says, if the motion passes, please announce in open session that you have directed legal counsel to prepare a resolution. For the next part was the appointment of a deputy clerk and deputy district clerk for finances. I pulled this out from July And then.
We have a motion
That's a
We have the
second.
motion.
and a
Okay.
second.
So is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. So that motion has carried unanimously for those board members here. The second thing we need, and we may have to wait a little bit because our attorney was waiting for the motion to pass, and then she was going to send us it. But I will just say what it is at the beginning in July, the board of directors listed people who could sign checks and do banking for the district. Both of those people are on leave right now. So we have to have people that will be able to do our business of banking and bonds, anything financial. And so we will get back to that after we do the National School Lunch Program and then of the reduction in force. But that will be coming up at the last business item. So Mr. Lindenberger is going to talk about the approval of the National School Lunch Program.
So I'll slow this down a little bit as we're waiting for our general counsel to write some language up. And I've been checking my cell phone periodically throughout this board meeting tonight as she's been texting me and asking me a couple of questions. So in regards to the next action item up, in regards to the National School Lunch Program, it's essentially a program where it's federal dollars that will come into a local school district such as ours and state funding as well. So it's a matching program between the federal government and the state government. And that money is deposited into a separate bank account than ours. So what I'm asking for is that the amount of $13,928.75 of state appropriated general purpose or undesignated revenues that must be transferred to the nonprofit school food service account in order to meet the general cash assistance match for the school year of the 23-24 as outlined. So essentially, we're just moving dollars from one account into our account so that we can access it for our students.
Okay, we have that recommendation, and the motion for that is listed in the packet. Does someone want me to make the motion?
That the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the amount of $13,928.75 for the National School Lunch Program State Revenue Matching Agreement number 3614001.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The next one is agreement that we have with the Newburgh Education Association, that when there is a reduction in force, that we need to have authorization. Okay, and so would someone like to make the motion that's in the packet?
Go ahead. No one wants to, but I move that the Newburgh Dundee School Board, Public School Board of Directors notifies the Newburgh Education Association leadership that layoffs are necessary and begin the process of reduction in force as per Article 28 of the current CBA.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, the Newburgh Education Association will be notified.
Call for
All
a
those
vote.
in favor? Aye. So we'll notify them that we have made the motion. So the next thing is, do we have a motion?
Okay.
I have it right here. That's it.
So you've got that. So I'm going to go ahead and read this email from our general counsel, Ms. Nesbitt. And she writes, "Good evening. I am attaching a resolution," and Nancy's looking at it right now, "relating to the appointment of the clerk, deputy clerk, custodian of school funds, etc. This resolution necessary during Dr. Phillips's absence, and that the finance director, to ensure the continuity of financial operations and operations impacted by the district purchasing and contracting. I recommend that the board adopt this resolution this evening, as there's an urgency in ensuring that the board has personnel authority to engage in financial transactions for the district. I recommend that it be posted in the board book as soon as the assistant to the board and to the superintendent Tabitha is able to do so. Respectfully submitted, Christine Nesbitt, General Legal Counsel.
Okay, the resolution is resolution 2024-04, Board of Directors, Newburgh School District, resolution establishing designated school district appointments. Whereas the Newburgh School District Board of Directors is required by Oregon law, ORS 332.515, 328.441 and 294.331 to designate school district appointments. And whereas some personnel designated for such appointments by the Newburgh School District Board of Directors Resolution 2024-03 adopted in July 1st, July 11th, 2023 is now unavailable to serve in such capacities. And whereas ORS 332.515 requires the school board to designate chief administrative officer of the district as the district school clerk. And whereas ORS 328.441 requires the school board to designate the persons to be custodians of the school funds of the school district. And whereas ORS 294.331 requires that the school board designate a person to serve as its budget officer to prepare or supervise the preparation of the budget document. And whereas the Newburgh School District Board of Directors determines that there is an immediate need to designate such appointments and agents of record. Therefore, it is resolved. 1, the Newburgh School District Board of Directors designates the following appointments effective immediately and for the fiscal year 2024-25 unless superseded by a later resolution of the board. Clerk and Chief Administrative Officer, the interim superintendent, Dr. Paula A. Radish, is appointed to serve as Clerk and Chief Administrative Officer of the Newburgh School District. Deputy Clerks, the interim financial director, Galen H. Jacobson, a CFF, is hereby appointed to serve as Deputy Clerk of the Newburgh School District. Custodian of school funds, the interim financial director, Galen H. Jacobson, DBA, CFA, and interim superintendent, Dr. Paula Radish, are hereby designated as custodians of school funds. Authorizes for purchase order, Galen H. Jacobson, DBA, CFA, interim finance director, and interim superintendent, Dr. Paula Radish. E, budget officer, the interim finance director, Galen H. Jacobson, DBA, CFF, hereby designated as the budget officer. F, federal grant representatives, interim superintendent, Dr. Paula Radish, and Galen H. Jacobson, DBA, CFF, interim finance director, are designated as representatives of the Newburgh School District for purposes of federal grants. 2, the district clerk and deputy clerk are authorized to enter into and approve payments on contracts obligating district funds not to exceed $150,000 for products, materials, supplies, services, and capital outlay that are within current budget appropriations. The district clerk and deputy clerk are authorized to obligate district funds without specific board approval when the expenditures are routine and customary, including but not limited to payroll and utilities. In accordance with ORS 328.445, the obligations of the Newburgh School District may be paid by check bearing the original signature of any custodian of school funds or the custodian's facsimile signature or by wire transfer. This is adopted on the 11th day of June, 2024 by the Board of Directors of the Newburgh School District. Is there a motion to pass this resolution?
I make a motion to pass.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Oh,
Or discussion?
discussion, thank you. Like the sounds of it, do you as board leaders, or maybe Mr. Lindenberger, we know who this Galen Johnson is and how he was selected?
I can tell you, Galen Johnson is a woman. She was recommended to Dr. Phillips by Claire Hertz. She worked with her. She was head of the finances for North Clackamas School District. She is retired and doing private contracting now, and she's on a contract hourly basis is her contract. And she, I talked with her today, have not met her, but she is going to be overseeing the budget as of now, and she is the one who will be in charge for until there's something permanent in order.
Okay, so we've asked her if she's willing to do this job, but technically
She's been hired
she's been hired. Okay, I guess.
by the administration prior to tonight, and that's not our hire. I mean,
Okay.
the board doesn't.
Sure, and that's why I'm just trying to understand logistics of how it all went down. So, okay, I'm good.
No, that was a good question, because I had not met her and I actually didn't know her full name or how to spell it correctly until I spoke her on the phone this morning. Do you have any comments, Mr. Lindbergh?
Other than just that Gay Allen had followed Claire in the Beaverton School District. I was aware of that. So she was their chief financial officer shortly thereafter. So plenty of experience.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. I think that is the last of our business. So
You have comments?
if people
or-
have comments they would like to make, I think it would be appropriate. Or excuse me, my mic was off. That was our last of our board item actions, and if people have comments, please, board members, go ahead and make them.
You want me to start? All right, we'll go this way, I guess. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier about the finance committee. I'd like to see that put on the agenda at some point. I know we've had a lot of bigger things right now. Primary has been to get a balanced budget, some of the other business tonight. I want to speak about the Joanne Austin thing. I want, at least for now, put that to bed. Last night at the budget committee, we talked with Claire Hertz. She talked about selling properties and closing schools. We discussed that that is not a good short-term fix. That she said, I'm just going to paraphrase, but that was like selling your house to pay taxes. So I can speak for myself. I have no desire to close Joanne Austin or any other school that's been brought up. That was not brought up by the board. That was originally stemmed from a May 7th budget committee about a potential long-term thing we may have to deal with if long-term student decline or student enrollment declined at some point. We may have to discuss that in the future. This is not in my interest and not something that I support. My daughter will be going to that school in a year. So I can tell you right now that I do not support closing any school at all as any kind of solution. There will be a lot of things that I would look at doing before that. I also want to point out that the board did not authorize, to my knowledge, there was no authorization by any member of this board for people to tour that school. That was not something we authorized. Another thing I want to point out, seeing a lot of misinformation, a lot of blaming teachers for this on social media. The demonization of teachers and staff has got to stop. The teachers did not cause this. That is, I've seen that floated out, that the negotiations caused this. That is, if anyone's paying attention to the budget committee meetings, that is no way been a cause. That those negotiations were before that. They didn't spend the money. So yeah, I just we need to put that to bed. I don't know why a few people in our community insist on spreading that, whether it's out of being misinformed or for their own agenda, but that is absolutely not the case. we have, as we had to do tonight, we had to pass that there will be reductions in force. And that weighs heavily. I know I've lost sleep over it. I'm sure everyone here has really struggled with that. And it's heartbreaking. And so I am sorry to those who will be losing their jobs. This was not your fault. And it sucks, just overall. So we got to stop demonizing them. We got to come together as a community. This is going to be really hard and hurt. And there's no other way to say it. So I'm sorry to those that are losing their job. And yeah, that's it.
I might be a little long-winded here. I got a few things I really want to say. First, some of the exciting things that I got to do this past month. I was able to attend Terminal Plays, which was wonderful to see essentially a sold out theater on closing night. It was so amazing to see the support that the theater program has, and to see the wonderful work that the students got to do on their own, directing and acting in those. It was so great to go and see. Got to do some other fun things. Joe and Austin, my daughter, had a musical performance, so I got to see the kindergartners and first graders that day. And man, what a joy it is to see little kids singing their hearts out, dancing on stage for their peers too. And I just want to say I was very impressed by the older students who had already done theirs weeks before. They were enthralled by it and were respectful of the hijinks that was going on stage. It was really awesome to get to see that. And then probably one of the highlights of my whole time on the board was getting to go to graduation and be there with those seniors that are moving on, see their excitement, their trepidation, all of those emotions, and to be a part of that. It revigorated my soul, and yeah, made it an exciting moment in a tough time, to really see some of the good stuff that we get to do. I want to thank all the students who came. I assume they didn't know that there would be a news camera on them tonight. I think we would have changed that if we could have. But to come in here and speak so eloquently and want to be a part of this, thank you all so much. And then also saying to yes, give it up for the kids. That was amazing. And the same goes to our candidates for Zone 5. Thank you for being willing to step in this time. I think that's I think all of you touched on it, just the civic engagement and the duty that you feel called to. I think that speaks a lot to all of your character, and so happy that we have people willing to step up in these difficult times. I do want to say that I assume most of you, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we still haven't gotten answers for so many of the questions that we've been asking, that we haven't actually had an update on our current budget situation in weeks now. I hate that I have to do this in this time, because there's no time during this meeting to talk about the issues that have been thrown out flippantly. James touched on the idea of possibly closing a school. I think it's dangerous when we throw out ideas, some with more thought out ideas, giving packets for closing a school rather than a packet for any of the other ideas on that list. I get really frustrated that we have to live together, community, teachers, otherwise, in this uncertainty right now, trying to ask for a forensic audit, trying to ask for all of these different things that would give us some transparency, some idea of what's happening in this current moment. And I hope that in this next 60 days that we're able to have somebody who shows us some information. I do hope that we are able to um, find ways to get us all or community members in those rooms where we're deciding on how these important decisions for next year are going to be made. I know that there is worry among the community of who's in the room making the decisions on cuts, making the decisions on what programs might be affected. And I hope that this public plea will allow more transparency in that, because everyone here deserves it. Everyone in our community deserves it. And I don't want to let these kind of moments go by without making sure that we all are putting pressure on us as a board and the district as a whole, on teachers, to make sure that we are all understanding that this is bad times, and we're all having to work together, and sacrifices are going to be made. I echo James that it's hard to say we're talking about cutting 60 FTE for this next year, and it feels really gross, but it has to be done. And I hope that we can come together as a community to value the lessons that we can learn from this. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Joanne Austin staff, for continuing to keep coming out, and for getting through these hard times with all of us.
Wow. What a roller coaster ride over the last month. It's been quite frustrating. It's been emotional, sleepless nights, a lot of things. First of all, sorry. Graduations, they're awesome. Love seeing them. I wasn't there on the stage for Catalyst, but I was there to support them, and it was awesome to see them and their stories. I was on stage for, of course, the high school, the main high school, and that was an awesome experience. Giving high fives and handshakes to all the students behind the curtains, kind of in a way. But just seeing some of these kids, I know quite a bit of them. For the most part, they've made it, and they've graduated. They're gonna be great young adults in the community, and wherever they go. They've had to go through some turmoil over the last couple of years, and lucky for them, they don't have to deal with what's coming up. At least the budget. I'm sorry for that. I know it's not my fault, but I feel that I have to apologize. We can do more earlier. And I just appreciate all the outpouring and emotions from everybody. Sorry, I actually have a few more bullet points too. I would say one of probably the most positive things I'll give credit for Dr. Phillips, is he always tries to call out the sports and performing arts and all the accolades every month. And I know I don't have a list, but you know, I just want to call them out in general. I know there's a lot of great kids, great teams, great communities that did a lot of great things as this school year closes out. So kudos to them. Again, appreciate the all the interest in the board position and also student reps, so I appreciate that. I didn't want people to lose their jobs. Even potential furlough days, that impacts so much more. And many of you know, this has impacted us already, my family. And I don't wish that upon anybody else. But the saving grace
that Dr. Radich is coming on board right now. It's the best news I've heard over the last few months. So I appreciate that. And thank you again for all your support.
Well, I'm an official companion crier, so I'm here with you. I got a little teary-eyed announcing that Dr. Radich was coming back. There's a lot of sentiments could be echoed with what the three previous board members have said. I started the month strong at Union Young on their kindergarten and first grade music program, which was so much fun. It was a pretty stressful time with board stuff, and as at the leadership level, we're attending a lot of meetings and phone calls and really dire information. But the little girl on the left side of the stage in her Disney princess gear and her tiara really made my day. And I'm almost didn't attend because I was feeling really overwhelmed and trying to get to here and there. But I'm so glad I went because I told Principal Henderson that this is what is important. Just as much as those little kids doing their program is watching the parents mouth, do all of the dancing, and a lot of more dads. Kudos to all those dads who knew every step and song that their kid needed to be doing. And shout out to the little girl who wore two different shoes because she just thought that was fun. And her mom said, I forgot it was a school program. So that was just a really important reminder to me about the work that we do, the work that you all do, why we show up every day, why all the folks who are here in the room show up. And I would like to say a thank you to the folks in the district office who've been really carrying a heavy load. And it's been an emotional and rough time for everybody here. I had a little hiccup in the middle of the month with my shoulder. But what's really heart-wrenching to me, in addition to what your just very heartfelt statement, is that what we are missing is the celebration at the end of this year for these kids. And the Catalyst graduation, I was so moved by the stories of resilience, and the words resilience and grit were really echoed with everything about what those kids have gone through, what all the kids who graduated in 2024 have collectively dealt with. Was a really, I wish we had more celebration of all of them and that we weren't going through this. I do know that we will be in good hands with Dr. Radich, and she will be a great partner to work with Mr. Linenberger and everybody to move through some really difficult times. And I hope that sort of the faith and the trust that we have in Dr. Radich will help the community feel a little more secure, and we'll be working on communication because we've heard the community. It's going to be a very difficult time, and we don't want to do we don't want to, every letter that comes in is, please don't stop funding this or don't stop funding that. There isn't anything that the schools do that we want to stop funding. In fact, we want to do more. I heard very eloquently the young lady last night talking about we need more in SPED, and we need more in this, and we need more in that. And, I jokingly said, we'll have to send, trash bags with kids to school like we used to do with tissue paper and copy paper back in the day. And austerity is upon us, but I really have a lot of faith in our community. I have a lot of faith in the leadership, and I have a lot of faith in this board to help shepherd us through a very challenging time. So thank you for always being here and supportive. And at the end of the day, doing what you're doing, you should be getting your classrooms ready for, I don't know what teachers do at the end of the school year except countdown. you should be doing whatever it is you would normally be doing, but a great thank you to everyone and, you know, we're going to be working hard to sort of navigate this next step.
Dr. Lindenberg, did you have anything you wanted to say tonight?
Thank you for the promotion, but I'm not a doctor.
Okay, Mr. Lindenberg.
But no, I don't think I can top
Okay.
what has been shared here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll close the meeting. The hardest thing for me in this process has been patience. I know all of us wanted answers yesterday. I wanted answers yesterday. I had some information I wished I could have shared publicly, and it was not appropriate. And it's important that this board follows all of the open meeting laws, the public meeting laws, because we definitely do not need any further lawsuits in this school district. And so that has been one of my primary goals as chair of this board, is to make sure that we are working within the law. And that's why we've had excellent counsel from Christine Nesbitt from the WEC and advice from Dr. Morlock at the WEC as we went through this process. And I would like to thank us as a former teacher. I thank the teachers and the staff. Everybody works in every school. It's been hard for you because some of you don't know if you're going to have your job next year, and you've kept on this year. You've taught, you've cared for the kids, you've kept the buildings clean, the secretaries have answered the phone. And so thank you for everybody who's worked in the Newburgh School District this year. I also am very thankful for getting to attend Catalyst graduation, Newburgh High School graduation. And that is our goal, to graduate students and move them on to their next activities, whether it's employment or further education. And so that's an exciting time. And again, I say thank you. It's very exciting that to have the board applicants and that Zone 5 will be represented well. And for the students that came tonight, that it was very brave of them to, in a public meeting, to share at their age. And I have to close by saying, the first time I talked with Dr. Radish was this morning. I knew her name, and I know her, obviously, have met her, but I feel incredibly grateful that she's willing to step in and do it for no compensation when our school district needs leadership, and she will do that and be very transparent. And so it gives me hope. On sleepless nights, like every other board member, I've gone through some things I'd like to say in closing that I knew would never be appropriate to say. And so I'm thankful that for the board members and how we've managed to get through this as best we can and do everything legally. And so, and thank you for the support of the community. And I know there are going to be community members who are not pleased with decisions that are even made tonight. And we hear your voice, and I really hope that we can be patient with each other and work towards unity and harmony in the community of Newburgh, because that's what benefits our students, and we're here for students. So thank you. With that, we will consider us dismissed. Thank you.